Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey,
PS Plus has its new crazy tier system, and I don't want to get into that because depending on where you're at, you get different games. Anyway, if you get the super fancy one, you get PS1 classics, and more specifically,
yes.
you get this random ass game that I had literally never heard of until 2 weeks ago that I love that is called Jumping Flash.
You never heard of Jumping Flash? Is this really your first experience with Jumping Flash?
It was one of those things where when the picture pops up, I was like, I might remember that picture. I definitely never played it. Had no
Sure.
context. It was just one of those where it's like, this is weird. And I think you mentioned something like Jumping Flash is super interesting. So I was just kind
Yeah.
of going through after like all those games kicked on and like, oh, I'll give all these like 15 minutes, see what it is. I got Jumping Flash was like, I played the 15 minutes and was like, this is weird and I love it.
Yeah, Jumping Flash is really cool. I also got the PlayStation Premium for just a month just because I want to see what was there. Um, and I went through a lot of the PS1 games. And this is one of those PS1 games that sometimes with plays with old games where it's like, this was a great idea. Why did nobody else do this after this game came out? It's like, it's such a cool idea. I think it's a first person shooter with movement stuff that I would say like Mirror's Edge is like a unique system of first person shooter stuff, and then Jumping Flash is its own unique
Shooter
system of
is a
moving around.
very shooter is a very generous word. I think other than the bosses, I don't think I shot anything. I just ran around platforming and exploring. So I
Sure,
literally
yeah,
like don't even think I didn't even really bother shooting stuff until the bosses showed up. But
yeah,
I mean, because the way I look at it is it's first person platforming. It's what if we made
sure,
like Super Mario 64 but like from Mario's eyes. And also you're a
yeah,
giant
yeah.
jumpy rabbit and robot and the whole game you're just jumping around and you go get your carrots, then you go to the exit. And it's one of those things that is so simple,
Sure.
it works perfectly. I think sometimes you go back and you play old games like you said, you're like, why didn't more people do this? And it's like, well, it's such a simple idea
Mm.
and it worked. And yeah, you could
Yeah,
iterate on it by making it like more detailed and all these other things, but like it's just like this is the thing. This is what I want. Like any more complication to this would have ruined it. It's one of those things
that
where
is
it's
true.
so
Yeah.
completely simple and it's perfect in its simplicity. It is a I'm gonna jump around and I'm gonna go find that carrot.
Yeah, and it does something that I think if you describe the gameplay sounds insane. So you walk around in like a normal first person view when
Hmm.
you can jump up and down, but when you do a double jump, the camera automatically points down so you're looking at your feet.
Yeah,
And the reason it does this is it allows you to figure out where you're going to land,
yeah.
whether it's on top of an enemy, like jump on like Mario Goombas, or if you're going to like land on a platform. And the controls are not great.
No,
Um, Probably
they
the
are very
biggest
much
complaint with the game,
1990s controls.
but it's really fun. Just like you're saying, that platforming. The thing that's really fun about the levels that I really enjoy that you don't see super often is that they're really open. It's just like this 3D. It's a small 3D area, and it's like, okay, collect four of these carrots. You are a giant robot rabbit
They're probably
collecting
robot carrots or
carrots.
something, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think they're called jet fuel or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they just give you free reign of the level, and I love that they just give you so much freedom to like jump around and figure out like, okay, well, I'm kind of exploring this level. Okay, there's one, and I'm like, then I'm on top of something. I'm like looking around, I was like, okay, where's that other carrot or something like that? It's like, okay, it's way over there, and then you jump off a huge tower and stuff. It actually has a few moments that I never felt this in older games when you're falling from like a really high height. You're like, just gonna make it, just gonna make it.
Yeah.
It's something that like you just don't. Games weren't that big back in the day, so having that sort of experience, like just making a jump as you're falling like 3 stories, is like really really fun and such an old tiny sort of game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you're like again, I think the simplicity of it, the timing of it, or the time period for it is so perfect because there are so many games where it's like, yeah, I've jumped off a 3-story building like 100 million times in other games, but
Yeah,
this game feels so special when I do it. And
yeah,
just watching your shadow, and I think when you're looking down, just waiting for your shadow to like ease over onto that platform, like, oh, there's my
yeah,
shadow. Okay, I'm gonna make it, and it's just this really rewarding feeling. I also love that like you only get a limited distance to see those carrots. So those carrots will pop up with like
sure,
a little note on it. It says like, oh yeah, hey, the carrot's over here. But that's only when you're within a certain distance. So there also is just this exploration piece of just kind of like, hey, like as you're naturally exploring, you'll maybe catch one of these like when a note pops up. But it was very fun just to kind of be able to wander around the level, and you kind of just naturally bumped into them, and you kind of naturally got those,
Hmm.
because once you've did, I think there's like 18 levels total. By the time you did 5 or 6, you kind of get like, okay, there's gonna be one in a really high place, there's gonna be one off in some
Yeah.
weird ass corner that you have no reason to go to, there's gonna be one,
Sure.
and you kind of get the feel for it, so you almost kind of know when you get into that level, you're like, okay, cool, tall thing, let's start there, I'm gonna start there, okay, and you kind of get this pattern down of like, okay, how can I find it, and there are scores and times and stuff like that, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it was funny. It has like this sort of like arcade score thing at the end. I was like, it seems kind of like I guess it's just maybe that just like sometimes old games just have like arcadey scores for the sake of having arcadey scores. It's like I feel like I didn't really need this giant scoreboard at the end for me just kind of like
Yeah.
running around this level. Um, the one thing I really enjoyed about the game was that the levels and the enemies are really damn goofy, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the levels seem to be just designed for like what's just a fun idea with these mechanics. Like there's one that's called like Sky Land or something like that, and like you're kind of going through like roller coaster platform sort of
That
like you
was
jump on something and it spins you around in circles and flies you, and then you like fly off the top of it. And like as a world, the world of Jumping Flash makes no sense, but it's just like here's a what if we just had your robot character go on a roller coaster? That sounds like a fun
Yeah.
idea. Or jump on hot air balloons or whatever.
The hot air balloons
It's
I didn't like, because you like
no, those were
slowly start
annoying.
to slide off of them.
Yeah,
That was one of those things
because
where it's like,
they're
this is really,
slanted.
that was a I like this for the first minute, and then as I was trying to get like that
Yeah.
last carrot, you're like, I keep slowing off that damn thing. But that roller coaster one was exactly the one I was going to pull up, because it's just, or talk about it, just because it's so unique, and it's something that like you kind of combine like a normal platforming level with like a minecart track level, where it's like you hit
Sure.
that thing, and
Yeah.
like there are a couple times where the carrot was positioned, and you're like, okay, like I gotta be perfect, so I hit that thing, it's gonna shoot me like halfway across this level, and it's just, it was a fun challenge. I think that one's maybe 3/4 of the way through,
Yeah.
just to kind of toss in there once you got the mechanics. Okay, now we're gonna screw with you a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I also really enjoyed was the boss fights because it's this weird mechanic of like looking down, you jump and hopping on enemies while also in a first person view. The mechanics of the boss fights were stuff I just hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to spoil them, but I thought they were all like really well done, and some of them were pretty funny. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this joke still works, in like the
Yeah. and
25 to 30 years later.
and I think the first time you see one, you're like, because again, going in pretty much blind to this, I think the first time I saw it, I was like, really, this doesn't have bosses? Like, how does this even? This seems dumb. Like, why are you gonna make me do bosses? Because I think the first level, I walked around shooting everything, because I just assumed like, oh, I have a gun, I need to shoot something.
Sure.
And then like you
Yeah.
get, as you go again, like I by the end I wasn't really even bothering shooting stuff. I was kind of dodging, running away, shooting when I needed to. But you get to the boss, and I had that feeling of just, is this really gonna work? And then as you go and those bosses keep happening, you're like, these are so unique and so fun that it
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it could work. Because again, you get that weird perspective. It just doesn't feel like it works, but somehow it does. And again, that's where I think adding more complexity to this, I don't think
Sure.
those would have been fun. But just they're goofy things, they're weird things, and yeah, it's just everything about this game is so good.
Yeah, and I'm excited. And they're bringing it back, kinda. I don't know. I don't know. There was a cool Astrobot. There's a cool Astrobot scene with jumping Flash stuff in it.
There's a cool Astrobot scene with like everything. I don't think
I mean that's fair,
of all the things to point
but
to for like we're gonna bring something back, Astrobot is not the
Astrobot's
thing.
probably not the. No, that's correct. But it's just interesting. Well, it's also interesting that it's like one of the first games released for the service. It's just like it's just I would say it's just an IP that Sony hasn't really
Yeah,
talked about.
it's an
And
interesting
then
one to go
jumping
for.
And the thing that's kind of fun is that Jumping Flash 2, which is I played a little bit of, is quote unquote the good one. And then there's also a Jumping Flash 3 that never came out in the US. It just, I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting pick for Sony's like premium service to like bring back this game specifically. And then
Hmm.
they mentioned it in Astrobot. I'm like, ah, man, this is, I think that other people are realizing this is a really cool idea. Neon White started as a Jumping Flash sort of prototype. So there is this sort of like neat gameplay hook that
Hmm.
I think is still worth exploring, and it's just good in its own right. Like I said, it's like a PlayStation One. This game is so old. I don't think many people know this. Well, I mean, nah, many's relative. When PlayStation games first came out, like first generation PlayStation game, they came in giant boxes,
Yeah, the
not
book size
CD
boxes.
cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is one of those ones that's like one of the book size boxes. That's how I remember going to a video store and seeing that and going, oh, that's one of the bad PlayStation One games because it was in a big box and I knew it was an old one.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I got my PlayStation like maybe 2 or 3 years after it came out and had that same thing. It's like, oh, you don't buy the ones in the big boxes. The big boxes are nobody likes those. Those ones suck.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure what they're doing at Jumping Flash. I just think it's cool that like more people are going to be able to get to play it. Like you played it for the first time. You're like, hey, this game's awesome. I was really excited you liked it. I think you actually convinced me to.
Yeah, because I think you
playing
did the
it.
15 minutes. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. But Jumping Flash 2 is the good one. I think is what you texted me.
Yeah,
It's like,
kind of.
I don't care because this is amazing. Like, that's fine. You say that, but this is so good.
Yeah, and I did go back and finish it, and it was really funny. I think the boss battles, especially at the end, were just stuff I've never seen
And
before. They're really silly and fun.
and again, I think it's an hour and a half. Like it's super quick
Yeah,
and breezy. It's
exactly.
like doesn't
Yeah,
overstay its welcome. It's like we did all of the things we can do with these mechanics. You're done. I hope you enjoyed.
yeah,
See you later.
that's cool.
But we are Workforce Gaming. You can subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming, and we will see you later.
Bye.